Okay, we're looking at the PZB98, the one that I built for myself, also to prove out some principles. And my wife's going to be doing the photography here, so if you can't see something, you've got her to blame. Honey, I want you to zoom in this area here. This is our butter knife bolt handle. This replaced the original simple rod style handle. What you have is a bolt that rides through the center of the receiver. The receiver is actually under 2 inches, very slender. It has a manual safety on the outside of what is essentially a bolt guide, but also doubles as a dust cover. To operate the weapon, it's conventional, just like a Mauser. You lift up on the bolt handle, pull back. This has been cut specifically to allow for full ejection of a completely loaded round, which is unlike the Russian design. The Russian design, they didn't think that far. You could put in a loaded round through here, but you couldn't eject it. For some reason, the tip would clip here. This didn't give you enough backplay here. So we actually modified this where now the thing's ejecting properly. Close, locks, your manual safety literally cams your pin back, the whole striker mechanism.
Cam it again? I was too far. Cam it again?
Okay. Very, very positive. And then to fire conventionally, just fire. It's being driven by a very strong die spring. Now, to get into the mechanism, we're just going to take this sucker apart. You don't have to actually film all of this. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. This is an extremely effective muzzle brake that we have for sale. It's a separate item. You can put whatever muzzle brake you want on, as long as it's threaded for 1 14". The way this thing is designed, if the camera will turn around, on the underside, you have a hole and a plunger. By pressing in
It's getting dark because I'm
with the tip of a cartridge or any other simple tool that you might have in the field, you pull back, lift off. You have 2 screws here that can be set at varying heights that give you just the right amount of play or tightness on these slots. Can you make that out?
Yeah.
And this is nothing more than a spring plunger that goes through, fits into the plunger hole, and this is a unit made out of Delrin. It's turned to the same diameter as the receiver. This butt plate, which was originally designed for a different weapon that we produce, is also adaptable to this. It will come with every unit, every kit where someone's intending to make one of these out of an aluminum stock. And it's set up for the large Kickies Sorbothane Magnum butt pad. At this point, lift up on your bolt handle, simply pull straight back, that's it. There's your bolt. It's no more complicated than that. This is the most complex part of the gun, and it is pretty much simplicity itself. The only problem is that there were some problems with the way the Russians designed it in the first place. For one, you have
Don't move too much.
an eject or extractor that had a very large radius that we've clipped, because that radius would actually dig into the brass when it was trying to kick out to the side. That's one operation you're going to be doing, is clipping that. The other is the cocking cam pin, which had no type of détente. They just simply thought there was no room for it to move, but actually we found that it could move slightly, ever so slightly, and jam up on the inside of this. So now there is a détente that's made up from a guide rod, which adds a little extra weight to the unit. They did not make the central shaft of the bolt wide enough. They had too small of a spring, didn't have enough oomph, the pin didn't have enough weight, and that's a separate pin head that's connected to this sleeve, which adds the extra weight to the pin. That actually rides on the outside of the bolt shank. You're going to be seeing this presently. Basically, to operate the thing, take it apart, field strip it, place it thusly, depress. Well, actually, it's easier if you do this. Watch, I'm going to show you the extractor. If you rotate this into a lock position, see how that is riding down the can there, then that releases a plunger with a spring.
Go slower.
And it also releases the tension on your mainspring so you can actually operate this easier. Push in on the plunger, pull out with your bolt handle. The bolt handle is held in position by the plunger, which is itself in turn held in by the bolt handle. Kind of like the way a Luger works. This is your plug. You're going to be manufacturing this to the numbers so that when it's pushed in and then released, it will lock. And then this can't move and this can't come out. This end is drilled out so that it can act as a guide for your guide rod. There's your spring. The guide rod. This actually gives extra weight behind the firing pin. And you see that little tip on the end. That little tip.
Show it again. Show it again.
Right there. Zoom in on it. That little tip goes into a détente hole in your cocking pin. That allows for your pin to always stay centered. There's the hole. So you'll be manufacturing this cocking pin with the hole to the numbers to keep it in place. Once that's released, then your bolt head, or your whole entire bolt, is free to come out. Your firing pin, the access, falls out the back, there it is. Now that this is free, I want you to see that the extractor and plunger, when you have taken them and machined them just so to the numbers, actually become a very simple field strippable feature. You press your plunger, it allows for this to come out kind of the same way as with the bolt handle, and once that's out, it releases your plunger and the plunger comes out, and that's it. Spring's in there, don't want to lose it, but that's it in a nutshell. Problem is, with the original bolt that you're going to be receiving, there's hardly a single one where this pinhole was drilled straight. So what you're going to be having to do...
Which hole?
The pinhole, center. What you're going to have to do, you can just make out the solder line there. You'll be taking your original bolt, cutting it, and manufacturing a new head. You'll take the shank, chuck it up in a lathe, and you're going to bore it out straight from the front to the back at a 1/2 inch. What this does is it straightens out the hole. It gives you an opportunity to make a bolt head where you have very precise dimensions for your pin. And then the whole thing comes together with a shoulder, gets silver soldered, and voila, you're done. You're going to extend this hole, the slot slightly, gives us a little extra oomph. The back end of the bolt has a slot that you're going to be cutting, which allows for your bolt handle to have a nice firm root into. It's better than a simple hole. And by boring this out, we gain a few things. There goes our spring. What we get is the ability to put more weight in here and a larger spring than the Russians provided, so that this thing fires every single time.